All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Village Board meeting to order on Monday, December 17, 2018, and ask you if you would please rise and join the Village Board in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Blackwood.
Here.
Trustee LaBedz.
Here.
Trustee Scaletta.
Here.
Trustee Sidor.
Here.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Here.
Trustee Baldino.
Here.
Trustee Rosenberg. Trustee Glasgow.
Here.
President Hayes.
Here. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We've got 5 sets to approve tonight. The first is from the Committee of the Whole meeting from October 22, 2018. Are there any changes or passes?
Move approval.
Second. Motion to approve by Trustee Blackwood, second by
Pass.
Trustee Sidor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Pass.
And a pass from Trustee Glasgow. Next is the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from November 14, 2018. Any changes or passes?
Mr. Mayor, I think there was a mistake. I was not here for the 14th. I was here for the 15th, and these are transposed on the minutes.
Okay. Do you have that, Becky?
I will make that correction.
And are there any other changes or passes?
Move approval with that correction?
Pass.
Motion by Trustee Baldino, second by Trustee Tinaglia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I would pass on that since I wasn't there.
Okay. And next, the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from November 15, 2018. Changes or passes?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Blackwood, second by Trustee Baldino, passed by Trustee Tinaglia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And next, the Village Board meeting minutes from December 3, 2018. Any changes or passes to those?
Move approval. Second.
Motion by Trustee LaBedz, seconded by Trustee Blackwood. Any passes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And finally, the meeting minutes from the Committee of the Whole on December 10, 2018. Any changes or passes?
Second.
Motion by Trustee Tinaglia, seconded by Trustee LaBedz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move on to the approval of the accounts payable. And in Trustee Rosenberg's absence, who can I call on? Trustee Glasgow, please.
It's downloading as we speak. Hold on. I'd make a motion for approval of a warrant register in the, for the check date of 12/15/2018 in the amount of $9,540,848.36.
Second.
Got a motion to approve by Trustee Glasgow, seconded by Trustee Scaletta. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Glasgow.
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta.
Yes.
Trustee Baldino.
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia. Trustee Blackwood.
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz.
Yes.
Trustee Sidor.
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Well, next we move on to recognitions and presentations, and we're very honored and pleased to be joined tonight by retiring State Representative David Harris. So David, if you'd come forward, if you would. Just come up here. Well, again, we're very pleased to be joined by retiring State Representative David Harris, who's contributed in so many ways, not just to the community of Arlington Heights and the surrounding communities that he's represented, but the state of Illinois and to our country in a number of different ways. David is a distinguished public servant, not just a distinguished elected representative, and I'll talk in this proclamation a little bit about all of his service to this community, this state, and this country. But David has been a dedicated resident of this community. He can essentially walk here from his home, not too far from Village Hall. And because of that, and because of his dedicated commitment to the residents of Arlington Heights, his constituents that he's represented down in Springfield, he's been such a good friend to the village of Arlington Heights. Over 18 years of elected service, but certainly in many, many more ways. And so we can't thank David enough for his dedicated service to the village of Arlington Heights. And so David, in recognition of your distinguished service, I want to read this proclamation. Whereas State Representative David Harris has been a resident of Arlington Heights for the past 35 years, as recently reflected by his selection as one of only 200 Illinois Bicentennial Honor 200 military veterans. David Harris has consistently demonstrated his dedication to a lifetime of selfless service to his community, state, and country throughout these years. And whereas, on the occasion of his retirement from the Illinois General Assembly after 18 years, it is altogether fitting and proper that his grateful hometown recognize David's distinguished career of public service. And whereas Representative Harris served the residents of Arlington Heights and surrounding communities in the Illinois House of Representatives from 1983 to 1992, and again from 2011 to 2018, and served as a member of the Revenue Committee for all of those years. Throughout his years of elected service, David remained committed to considering the issues carefully and to casting his votes to fairly represent the interests of his district and the people of the state of Illinois. Whereas David Harris entered military service in 1970, earning his commission through Officer Candidate School at Fort Benning, Georgia, and proudly continued his military service as a member of the National Guard. In 1999, David became the commanding general of the Illinois National Guard, responsible for overseeing 13,500 men and women in uniform and 500 civilian personnel. In 2003, David retired from military service after 33 years with the rank of Major General. Whereas we honor David Harris today for his impressive career as a public servant in both elected and military service, and for the significant imprint that he has made on both the village of Arlington Heights and the state of Illinois. In all these things, David has embraced his many roles, and his dedication to duty, honor, and country have been an exceptional gift to all he has served. Now, therefore, I, Thomas W. Hayes, Mayor of the Village of Arlington Heights, along with the Board of Trustees, and on behalf of his constituents, do hereby recognize and thank State Representative David Harris for his distinguished public service and wish him well in his well-deserved retirement from elected office. Congratulations, David. You sure may. I have to say, why don't you stay here? I've got a microphone. But David and I go way back. We actually, our military careers intertwined. We actually had an exercise together back, I think, in the mid-1990s at some point. So his unit did very well. I was actually grading his unit at that time. So, David, the floor is yours.
And my unit passed, too. You know, this is very dangerous. He handed the microphone to a politician with an open mic, so you could be here a long time. Seriously, it is an honor to be recognized by my hometown, by the village of Arlington Heights, for the work that I've done down in the General Assembly. My wife and I have been, as you heard, have been in Arlington Heights for decades. I grew up in Mount Prospect, but we chose to move here when we got married. I went to high school here. My children went to high school here. And I've seen just a wonderful, wonderful growth of this community over the years. I mean, I go back to the days of Arlington High School in Forest View, and I remember when South Arlington Heights Road was only 2 lanes, and there was a big fight as to whether or not we should put that turn lane down the middle. But the point about it, the change, is that the change has been positive over the years. The community has grown. It's grown in just an absolutely marvelous way. It has had great leadership at the mayoral level, at the village board level. Your public servants here on the village board and the mayor work extremely hard on behalf of the constituents. I was honored to be a small part of that in Springfield. It has been a true pleasure to serve my constituents, to work with the local municipalities throughout my representative district. And it's just been a pleasure, and this proclamation will hold a place of honor and prominence in my office, and I thank you very much for doing this. Thank you to each and every one of you.
David.
All right, well, we have no other recognitions and presentations, so we'll move on to citizens to be heard. And we have no citizens to be heard under items not on the agenda. Is that right, Becky?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on then to old business, and we do have one item to report out tonight. That's the proposal to increase the minimum wage age for the sale and purchase of tobacco products to 21. And it is topical. If you read the news today, it was all over the internet at least, that there was a study that came out that vaping has increased significantly in our youth. I think it was 1 in 3 high school age kids are involved in vaping. And so this action on behalf of the village board that we took last week, I think is appropriate and timely. And so I would call on, I don't remember who made the motion. Trustee Tinaglia?
Thanks, Mayor Hayes. Yes, we had a pretty long spirited debate, and there was a lot of good information that came out on the team. So tonight, I'd like to move that the village board adopt an amendment to the municipal code changing the age to sell and buy tobacco products to 21. This is not intended to prohibit employees over 18, but under 21 from selling tobacco products in businesses that sell such products.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Tinaglia, seconded by Trustee Baldino. Questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, anything from the audience on this? Mr. Moens, you do have a blue card.
Thank you, President Hayes. Trustees, I think I owe you this one. Passing the Tobacco 21 initiative is something that the board should be very proud of. And I wanted to congratulate you and acknowledge you in this accomplishment. I completely support this proposal, and I think it's ending this year on a very positive note. It's clearly the right thing to do, and I think it's a big deal. The board has the power to do the right thing here, and they did it, and I'm proud to acknowledge that. The most positive aspect to me in this is that as a board, you were able to overlook some of the previous similar objections that you had to passing the minimum wage increase and earn sick time to go ahead and pass Tobacco 21. For example, Tobacco 21 is a patchwork ordinance. There is no state or federal legislation here, and a patchwork ordinance was one of the main objections for not passing the minimum wage and earned sick time. For example, Tobacco 21 will reduce local retail sales and increase government regulation. In other words, it could hurt or probably will hurt some local businesses. That was another objection to passing the minimum wage increase and earned sick time that was overlooked to pass this. I think these are positive things. The only real difference that I see between Tobacco 21 and raising the minimum wage and earned sick time issues was the view of the Chamber of Commerce. In this case, the Chamber of Commerce, for some reason, was neutral on this, even though it could hurt our local businesses. But raising the minimum wage and earned sick time case, the view of the Chamber of Commerce was unanimously against it. Of course, this begs the question from our viewpoint here is, if the Chamber was unanimously against Tobacco 21, would you have not passed that? Or the real question is, how much influence does the Chamber have on vitally important social issues in Arlington Heights, such as Tobacco 21, raising the minimum wage and earned sick time? Because the clear majority of Arlington Heights residents want the minimum wage raised and earned sick time. Let me just give you some quick numbers here. According to the Cook County Clerk's Office, about 58% of our registered voters in Arlington Heights, which is about 53,000, just a little bit under, according to the Clerk's Office, 58% of those, which is about 32,000 voters, voted in the November 6th election. A turnout we would dream to have come April 2nd, but won't. We'll probably get something close to 10. But of that turnout that came to vote on November 6th, 73% voted in favor of raising the minimum wage. This is just in Arlington Heights. And 82% voted in favor of earned sick time. The board also has the power to do the right thing there as well, to raise the minimum wage and earn sick time, and it would be an enormous benefit to the majority of Arlington Heights residents. It would be on par for Tobacco 21. So I think given the new rubric here on considering social issues, I would ask that the board reconsider raising the minimum wage and earned sick time, I think can be in order. Finally, congratulations once again. I am proud of you to do this on passing Tobacco 21. I think it's a very big deal. In my view, maybe even a little bigger than the police station, but that's just my opinion. And finally, I wish you all and your family a safe, healthy holiday season, a happy new year, and I look forward to seeing you all again right back here next year. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Mr. Moens. Just in response, the most significant reason that I voted in favor of the ordinance was our unanimous recommendation of the Board of Health, which said that this would positively impact the health of our residents in our community. And so that was the most significant reason why I voted in favor of this. Any further questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? All right, Mr. Recklouse, just in terms of process going forward on this, we're still in the process of drafting
Yes,
ordinance.
we're-
If you could
we're-
just tell us where we're at.
We're drafting an ordinance, and we believe it's going to appear on the board agenda, the first meeting in January, which is January, is it the 7th, I believe, or
7th.
7th?
And effective date will be?
We're working on the ordinance, so we'll have more information going forward.
All right, if nothing further on this, there's no other old business. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any members of the board?
Need vote.
Vote on the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. We do have a motion and a second. Refresh my recollection. It was Trustee Tinaglia and Trustee Baldino. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Now, consent agenda. Are there any members of the board who wish to vote no or pass on any item on the consent agenda? Any members of the audience who wish to remove an item? All right, I'm all discombobulated. Are there any members of the audience who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? See, Mr. Moens, this is what you do to me. Okay.
That's the intent.
Are there any members of the audience who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Seeing none. Now, any members of the board who wish to vote no or pass on any remaining item? Seeing none. Motion to approve by Trustee LaBedz, seconded by Trustee Tinaglia. Roll call.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. Move on then to new business. We do have 3 items that were considered by the Building Code Review Board, and I would first call on Mr. Recklouse.
I'm going to call on our Director of Building and Life Safety to address these items.
We have 3 items before the board tonight from recommendations from the Building Code Review Board. The first will be the moorings of Arlington Heights Presbyterian Homes. They had submitted plans to build a storage shed for their salt, and the way our codes are currently written requires that to be sprinklered, so with fire sprinklers, so they are going to they requested that we waive fire sprinklers, and the department recommended it, and the Building Code Review Board also made that recommendation. So somebody is here from the moorings if you have any questions regarding the issue.
Okay, any questions on this item? Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Rosenberg, second by Trustee LaBedz. Anything further from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the next item, Steve?
The next item is it's a waiver from the code for, has to do with a fire-rated assembly between buildings because of an unusual construction that's going on a building that was presented. It didn't quite meet code. so it needed to get looked at and approved by the recommended by the Building Code Review Board. The department recommends for it. It meets the intent and spirit of the code, and the board, Building Code Review Board also recommended for approval.
Okay. Trustee Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Steve, could you kind of explain this in layman's terms, exactly what we're being asked to give a variance for and how this impacts the building safety itself?
Sure, absolutely. When something gets tested by, say, Underwriters Laboratories, of course, there's other laboratories that do this, but UL is one of the most well-known, and of course, they're right here in Northbrook. A standard gets written. Manufacturers build examples of that standard and submit it to UL. UL takes this assembly, puts it in a big hot oven, make sure that it doesn't burn through within the specified period of time, and they go through rigorous testing to make sure an assembly meets certain requirements. What we have here is a situation, because of existing construction, that doesn't specifically conform to the exact nature of the standard, yet is close enough, having, reviewed it, the way it's being assembled, that it's going to act and function in the same way as that tested assembly. So we're comfortable with what we've seen and how it's being done, but again, it technically did not meet the letter of the standard, so it needed a separate approval.
So in your opinion, we're not in any way, in your opinion, compromising the safety or any of the residents that are going to occupy this space?
No, absolutely not. It's going to provide the same, I'm comfortable in saying it will provide the same level of protection that the tested UL standard will. The other aspect of this is when this was going to the BCRB, there were other issues at play that they were going for, and those ended up getting actually withdrawn, having to do with fire sprinklers. They are actually going to be installing fire sprinklers in the building now, which was something that was at issue before. So that makes me even more comfortable with what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from the board? Seeing none, nothing from the audience on this. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Rosenberg. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And finally, Steve?
Okay, thank you. Finally is a proposal by the building department to make a change to the village ordinance, particularly and specifically an ordinance that would eliminate the requirement for fire sprinklers inside of utility-type buildings. I do not believe it was ever intended when the original amendments were written to require sprinklers, but I'm going to suggest due to oversight or the complexity of the code, it got overlooked. And of course, we had to come before both the Building Code Review Board as well as the Village Board and make these presentations to have basically tool sheds, not have fire sprinklers in them, which, I hope would seem pretty common sense that it's not intended by the code to do that. You don't have heat, you don't have power, you don't have water source. It's almost kind of silly to even present it, to be quite honest. So all the language change that is being presented is strictly adding utility buildings to the list of already existing buildings in the ordinance that don't require fire sprinklers.
Okay, questions? Trustee Baldino?
Thank you, Mayor. One question. Does this, I couldn't find it when I was reading through the proposed amendment. Does this apply to commercial utility buildings or both commercial and residential utility buildings?
It is strictly commercial utility buildings. 1 and 2 families do not fall under the International Building Code. Okay. They would fall under the International Residential Code. So currently today, if you came for your house and applied for a shed, you could, of course, get that at your house without needing fire sprinklers. It's just those commercial buildings that need it.
Well, that's what prompted the question, because we built a shed and this never came up. So
Right.
I'm grateful it didn't. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure. Thank you, Mayor.
Trustee Scaletta.
So when there's a utility shed on a commercial piece of property, what is the space between the shed and the property line?
That could vary. It all depends on what they submit. There's a possibility that it's probably any distance zoning would allow, and I don't know what those distances are, but probably 5 feet, I want to say. It's a possibility of being less,
I'll look at our zoning expert.
but
It's gonna be 5 or 6 feet, right, Charles?
Typical shed setback would be 5 feet. It could vary from some other districts, but that's typically the minimum.
Okay. I mean, the only reason I'm asking is that I think we've done at least a half a dozen of these over the years, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I just want to kind of throw caution out there that we want to make sure that we're being very careful that that I wouldn't be supportive of, then having a variation of having the shed too close to the property line and close to another structure,
sure.
or else we're defeating the whole point of what we're trying to accomplish here tonight.
Well, honestly, the standard code doesn't require it, and I think the nature of utility buildings is such that your fire risk is small to begin with. If you were to get a larger type building that's going to be a lot of storage inside of it, it wouldn't get classified as utility. It would get classified as a storage building, which would fall into a whole different category as well. So by the nature of a utility building, it's accessory in nature and, generally going to have a smaller fire load. So you're not talking about quite the risk that you would if you were maybe talking about a large storage type facility or something like a warehouse or something along those lines. That would never get classified utility. That would get classified storage, just for clarity.
I hear what you're saying. I just suggesting that if somebody wanted to put up a 10 by 10 shed, and they've lots of gasoline in there and other chemicals,
Sure.
that I wouldn't want that to be so close to the lot line and us providing a variation of putting another building in potential danger.
Agreed.
I'm sorry. All right.
Yep.
I'm good.
Okay, anything further from the board? Seeing none, anything from the audience? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee LaBedz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
And we have one other new business item. That's the Arlington Executive Plaza, located at 3335 to 3395 North Arlington Heights Road. So request for an amendment to the plan unit development for parking variation. Is the petitioner present? Why don't you come forward? And just introduce yourself if you would,
My name is Carissa McCallum.
and tell us what you're looking to do here.
Okay, start back from the beginning. So I currently practice out of Family Tree Holistic Health, which is in Suite D, 3345. I started practicing out of there as an employee and made the decision with my partner to become partners. Right now, the way the space is set up, only one of us can practice in the space at a time. So we wanted the ability for us both to be able to choose our hours and see patients when we wanted to see patients. And so we had signed a lease on Suite K, which is directly behind us, so we would only need to knock down one wall so that we would both be able to be in the same space. We would share it. It'd be one main entrance and then the treatment rooms. And so when I signed the lease at the end of February last year, we didn't know that the PUD amendment was in effect. So met with contractors, found the best one, went to submit our plans to the village, and then found out that there was this PUD in effect. Since we are a medical building, that the parking ratio was now in question, if that's the best way to put it. So the request was to amend this so that we can continue with the build-out that we would like to do so we could both be in that space together.
Okay. And this comes before us through a unanimous recommendation to approve the variance from the Plan Commission. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And anything to add, Mr. Perkins?
No, it does come with a positive recommendation from staff and Plan Commission. While this petition only has a small space that they're expanding into, the actual office complex has a 28 space parking deficit. So both staff and the petitioner have done parking counts, and we're comfortable that given the current tenant mix and the nature of this development, that there is sufficient parking, and would recommend the variation as identified.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board? Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
So thank you for choosing to expand your business in Arlington Heights. I'm sorry that this kind of came out of left field.
Yeah.
I will say that I think it's probably best for the overall development that this all came to light, because now the company managing the property is aware of this issue, and they can comply with the code that was that the landlord agreed to many years ago.
Sure.
So wish you the very best, and after my colleagues speak, I'd be happy to make a motion to approve.
Anything from the board? Trustee Scaletta, go ahead.
I would move
Trustee
approval.
Sidor has
Oh,
a
sorry.
question, Mike?
No, just based on your, I kind of know the background of your
Okay.
issue,
Yeah.
and it was a really long time to just kind of get to one more space, and you kind of got caught in a quagmire of governmental, well, I'm not even going to say the word, I don't know what the word is, but thank you for your patience, thank you for being so kind. And as Trustee Scaletta said, hopefully in the long run, we should be able to determine these issues well in advance, so that someone like you, who's just trying to simply move next door, doesn't have to go through this
Sure.
ever again. But thank you very much, and thank you for, again, expanding in Arlington Heights, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, now Trustee Scaletta.
Well, now I got to respond to what he said. I will just say this, that, the landlord holds a lot of responsibility
I agree.
for not making their managing agent aware of what was going on. And so I am so sorry that you got caught in the crosshairs. And hopefully going forward, you'll have smooth sailing. And anytime I know somebody that needs your services, I will send them your way.
Thank you.
I would move to concur with the Plan Commission recommendation.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Tinaglia. Further questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, there's no other new business, so I'd move on to the report of the village manager, Mr. Recklass.
Nothing further this evening.
Anything from the board, petitions and communications? Trustee Glasgow.
Mr. Mayor, it's with great regret that I am going to be tendering my resignation as a village trustee as of January 1st, 2019. This is a decision that I have thought about for a while. I've talked to my family. I have talked to my partners. I've been involved in public life since I was 21 years old. And during that time, I've represented the people of the state of Illinois, the citizens of Cook County, and the citizens of the village of Arlington Heights. I've truly enjoyed being able to give back to my community in these roles. And the members of the board know how much time goes into preparing for these meetings and fulfilling our duties and obligations as public officials. However, my firm's been given several business opportunities which are going to directly conflict with my obligations as a trustee, the time commitments that are involved. And as such, I must sadly tender my resignation. This has been one of the most rewarding endeavors of my life, and I'm very thankful to the citizens of the village of Arlington Heights for allowing me to serve as their representatives. And during that time that I've served, we as a board have achieved a great many things that I'm proud of. We have a thriving outdoor dining scene in our restaurants to promote Arlington Heights as an entertainment destination. We promoted Walk Arlington and Idle Free to promote the health of the people of the village of Arlington Heights. We have a snow shoveling program to assist seniors and help our youth. We have navigated the most devastating economic downturn in our lifetimes and still managed to balance the budget and provide excellent caliber of services for the citizens of our village. But in my opinion, and going through everything that we've done while I've been on this board, our greatest achievement's been hiring Randy Reckless. He's a great leader. He's well liked by those who work with him and work for him. He's a seasoned manager who knows how to achieve the goals of the board and understands that he implements policy and doesn't direct it or implement it. But most of all, he's a man with a good moral compass. He understands the role of government and how to use government to serve the people without being overreaching. He's an excellent choice to continue the traditions this board has fostered over the years into the future. Our former village attorney, God rest his soul, Jack Siegel, told me once that individual trustees do not have a lot of power. Power lies when we speak as one from the dais. And I'm privileged to have worked with the current and past members of this board, and one reason stands out in that conclusion. Despite what people may say or what we may hear in the news, our board gets along. We all have ideological differences, but I'm proud to have been part of a group that shows respect for one another and for the citizens they represent. We listen to each other, we respect each other's thoughts and opinions, and most of all, our board is not afraid of compromise. Each one of the board members has a deep love for this community, and we all understand that there's give and take in any decision that we make. When our board exercises that power and speaks as one, we've done so with great thought and deliberation. And because of that dedication to making the right decision, we've carried on the tradition of good laws and good government. I'm proud to say that I've been part of this group. The fact that I'm announcing my resignation today is not by chance. Almost 10 years ago, I sat on this dais as candidate Glasgow and campaigned for a state-of-the-art police station. I've spent my entire adult life either investigating, prosecuting, or defending actions in the criminal justice system. This was something I felt that had to be seen through to its completion, and now that it's reached fruition, I am compelled to focus my time and obligations that I have to my clients. Being a member of the Board of Trustees of Arlington Heights has been an incredible experience, and I'm deeply thankful that the citizens of our village have allowed me to serve in this capacity. As a lawyer, I've enforced the law, I've argued before the courts to overturn laws, and my role as a legislator here, I was fortunate enough to help make the laws that govern our daily lives. In addition to thanking the citizens of the village, I'd like to thank each and every board member, both past and present. I want to thank them for listening to me, taking my counsel, and at times adopting policies for the village that I felt were important to our community. Most importantly, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to hear your voice and giving me a different perspective from which I can learn and benefit from the experiences, your experiences, and your insight. As one of my colleagues and I were talking, and one of the members of the dais, I explained to him during a conversation that we're all just temporary occupants of these seats. No one owns these seats, and no one should own them. I trust that the board understands this, and this was an incredibly difficult decision for me to make, as you can probably tell. But I know ultimately it's the right one. I also trust that the board will fill my seat with another citizen who has the same love of the village and dedication to our traditions of good government as the current city members here. Tonight is my last night stepping down from this dais. I've truly enjoyed this, and I wish all of you a happy holiday, and it is a pleasure to have served with you.
Well, Tom, I have to say that it comes as a complete surprise to me and really a shock. I mean, I can only say at this point, without having had an opportunity to try to twist your arm, which I may still do, we can only thank you for your dedicated service to this community for 10 years and all that you've contributed to this community, this board, and everything that we've accomplished has been as a dedicated member of this team, not just as a village trustee, but as a president pro tem for 4 years. I very much appreciate your service in that regard and your wise counsel that you gave to me for those 4 years, and we'll miss you if I can't change your mind. But you know, all of the members up here, all the people that I've served with for 28 years have just been tremendous public servants, and Tom, you've been right at the top of that list with everything that you've accomplished and all the great things that you've done to help establish and enhance the quality of life that we enjoy here in Arlington Heights, which I always say is second to none, but it's as a result of all of our teamwork, and you've been a huge part of that. So that's my initial reaction coming from a state of shock, but again, we can't thank you enough for all that you've done, and if I can't change your mind, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, Trustee Sidor.
Well, I think my biggest regret is I had this whole thing planned because I'm not running again. Tom, I was going to roast you like a beast, you know.
I'm here. Go ahead, Mike.
When I was elected, do we have time to do this, Tom?
Sure,
Because otherwise,
absolutely.
When I was elected, I remember you and I sat down at Bigby at that time, and that's when you kind of told me that we were, kind of temporary occupants of these seats. And you told me a lot of other things too. I won't talk about those. Some of them were kind of funny, but I appreciate everything you've done. I appreciate your command of the English language. I've learned a lot of words from you, like de minimis. But sitting, watching your daughter play basketball at Rolling Meadows High School when they had a couple of state runs there, I thank you for what you brought to this community, your dedication to it, and your openness for phone calls. You always return phone calls if we needed to discuss an issue. And I think I agree with you that even though this board sometimes doesn't agree with each other up here, we're all respectful and we're all good listeners, and in the end, I think we're moving this village in the right direction. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, well, with that, let me just wish those in attendance and those watching at home a very Merry Christmas and holiday season and a Happy New Year. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And we do need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Trustee Glasgow and Trustee Tinaglia, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.